Warning: this video contains swearing, and this is not for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. And thank you, Amaya, for making my avatar. So I just watched two new movies this week. First, A Quiet Place Day 1 and Kinds of Kindness, and we'll just talk about A Quiet Place since I saw that first. A Quiet Place Day 1 is the newest installment as this film takes place on day 1 of the alien invasion, as the character Sam, played by Lupita Nyong'o, as she's trying to survive these creatures that are blinder than Ray Charles. When the first movie came out back in 2018, people were so hyped about this movie, and despite this movie having some good aspects, the movie had some major issues that I couldn't look past by, and I just found the movie okay. And when the second one came out back in 2021, it was a major improvement, although I did have a few issues with that one, but compared to the first one, it was way better than expected. Now with A Quiet Place Day 1, John Krasinski isn't returning to direct as he's too busy making a Foster's Home knockoff. So the new director for the movie is Michael Sarnowski, and his claim to fame is the movie Pig. It stars Nicolas Cage.
I agree with that.
So this is a big risk for getting someone who's just barely directing. And in my opinion, Day 1 is the best in the franchise so far. First off, just to get this out of the way, Lupita does a great job in this, given on how her character was written. The secondary characters do a fine job in this, as I really don't have much to say, except we do have another main character in this, but we'll talk about him later. Despite there not being much dialogue for like 80% of the movie, the facial expression says a lot about what they're feeling, as that they can't really speak, especially that these creatures could kill them if they make any noise. And I know that's nothing new, especially that in the franchise, you have to remain silent, but even in the first two movies, some of the character decisions are fucking stupid, and it made me think on how the hell did you even survive this whole thing. But in this movie, given the context and the situation, it makes a lot of sense on why these people are stupid in the first place. And because of that, the scare factor is a lot more better in this. The production design in this is really good as well. Despite the reported budget of $67 million, the special effects in this look really good, and it looks way more polished than other Hollywood movies that will cost around like $100 to $200 million. And just to get this out of the way, yes, the sound design is really good in this, especially when you listen in Dolby Atmos. However, I do have to mention that for my theater at least, the volume for Dolby Atmos was way lower, and I hope this is just an issue with my theater when this movie gets a physical or digital release. And if this is just an issue with the movie itself, I would be really disappointed. Despite this movie being the best in the franchise, there's a few things I didn't like about this movie. The character Sam has a really odd motivation. I'm not going to say what it is. It did take me out certain moments in the movie, and I think that if you have to keep this motivation, write it a little bit differently so that it wouldn't sound so stupid. Another main character we meet in the movie is Eric, played by Joseph Quinn. Now he does do a good job in the movie. However, I wish we got some glimpses of him in the beginning, like maybe he's doing something, because the way he was introduced in the movie, it was a little bit odd. Nothing bad to say about the acting, I just wanted a little bit more. There are two scenes in the movie that took me out of the scare factor early on in the movie. A character is trying not to make any sound as the alien is close to him, and when it looks like it's about to attack him, something happens in the background that causes the alien to leave. Maybe that's just random luck, but it's just way too convenient for the plot. However, there was one scene that really gets on my nerves. It involves one of the main characters, as they're at some location where the aliens are at, and there is something important for the character to grab. Instead of letting the aliens leave the area, they decide to risk it for no reason, which doesn't make any sense because in context, they could wait for a while, but nope. And what makes it worse is when they grab the item, and to remind you, he's still in a populated area where the aliens could kill him, and instead of showing how he gets out of that situation, we just cut to the next scene like nothing happened. What the fuck? I know this just sounds like I'm nitpicking, but given the fact that I like this script better than the other two movies, this is just lazy storytelling just to get the audiences engaged. Despite my issues with this movie, A Quiet Place Day 1 is a main example of how you make a good script that has tension, but has better context in how a situation goes down. I hope that John Krasinski and the studio takes notes from this movie, so check this one out if you like. And I'm gonna give this a 7 out of 10. The next film I'm going to talk about is Kinds of Kindness by Yorgos Lanthimos. Despite me only seeing two movies from him, He's an interesting filmmaker that I'm starting to keep my eye on, as I like his style of filmmaking, and I know that it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And especially this time around, Lathimos decided to make this one an anthology, split up into 3 different stories, using the same actors as they play different characters throughout. It's going to be tricky to talk about this movie for the positives and the negatives, but I'll try my best to explain myself. First off, the acting in this movie is excellent, as Yorgos' direction gives all the actors a unique take to the characters they play. The original score by Jerskin Frendrix is really good, although I feel like it's not going to be as memorable from another Lathimos' production, Poor Things, as that soundtrack is so memorable to me. The cinematography in this movie is really good. I forgot to mention this, but the comedy in this movie is stilted and deadpan, but it was really well executed. And from what I understand, that's how his other films are, so I have to check out those ones as well. I'm not going to really go into the plot points as much, but I will talk about what the segments are in this movie. Story 1 is about a man that tries to take control of his life. Story 2 is a policeman is suspecting his wife is acting different than usual. And the third story is about a woman who's trying to find someone with a special ability. Now, since the movie uses the same actors in different roles, the best one in this cast is Jesse Plemons. He does an amazing job in this, and he did win the award for Best Actor at the Cannes Film Festival, and no wonder why, because he is fantastic in this. The other actors in the movie, like William Dafoe, Emma Stone, Hung Chow, and many more, they do an amazing job as well. For Story 1, I really didn't have any complaints about this, as the story itself is ridiculous and odd, but it is easily my favorite segment in the whole movie, as both this and Story 2 have Jesse Plemons as the main role, and to me his acting really shines in this movie. Story 2 is great as well, although even though I love the ending in segment 2, I felt like the payoff could have been done better. As for Story 3, I thought that the concept alone is really good, but it is easily my least favorite out of the 3 stories. And one of my biggest issues with this movie is that it is 2 hours and 45 minutes, but Story 3, that's when it starts to show how long this movie is. It made me wish it was cut down a bit. Another thing is that Story 3 is a bit out of focus. And what do I mean by that is when it comes to the themes in that story. With the other 2 segments, I at least understand what they're going for. But for segment 3, there's just too much going on, and it confused the living hell out of me. A personal issue I have with Story 3 is it has a small depiction of something that rhymes with grape. And I won't say it because I don't want to get this video age restricted. I personally don't want to get into it, but I know that a lot of people are going to have issues with this scene. But it is something I have to bring up. Overall, I feel like this film is a bit complicated to recommend. If you're a fan of Yorgos Lanthimos' films, you would like this. But for casual audiences, not so much, especially if you're easily triggered. As for me, I do like this film. If I have to give the segments a rating, Story 1 would be a 10 out of 10, Story 2 would be an 8 out of 10, and Story 3 would be a 7 out of 10. And as a whole movie, I give Kinds of Kindness an 8 out of 10. So that was my double review of A Quiet Place Day 1 and Kinds of Kindness. Let me know what you guys think about these movies in the comments. And if you guys like to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'm Ricky the Kitsune, signing off.